In the mid-1980s, Bill Cosby decided to try his hand at the dying art of situation comedy with The Cosby Show. The gamble worked. It was an instant hit, pulling in tens of millions of viewers each week, which kept it in the #1 spot for 5 straight years. The Cosby Show would air for a total of 8 seasons, from September 20th, 1984 to April 30th, 1992. In the early 80s, ABC executives Marcy Carsey and Tom Werner left the network to start their own production company, Carsey Werner. At ABC, they had overseen sitcoms such as Mork and Mindy, Three's Company, and Welcome Back, Kotter. The partners decided that to get a sitcom to sell for their fledgling company, they needed a big name behind it. Bill Cosby had performed stand-up comedy with award-winning albums and starred in several genres in TV and film in the 60s and 70s, but his career had become more static by the early 80s. Nevertheless, he was itching for another shot at small-screen success. So after he put together a pilot script, along with writing partners Ed Weinberger and Michael J. Leeson, they scheduled a meeting with network executives at ABC. Despite Carsey and Werner's connection to the network, ABC passed on the show. So they went over to their competitor, NBC. They said no too. Then, in January 1984, fate intervened. NBC President of Entertainment, Brandon Tartikoff, happened to tune in to The Tonight Show during one of Bill's frequent guest appearances. After listening to Bill's hilarious routine about the importance of getting kids out of the house, Brandon realized his executives had made a big mistake and offered Bill a home for his series on NBC. In the spring of that year, the network ordered a pilot episode of The Cosby Show. But there were a couple of significant details that needed to be addressed. Bill made his home in New York City, so he wanted the show filmed there instead of Los Angeles. He also pushed for full creative control. Reluctantly, Brandon agreed to both requests. The Cosby Show focuses on the Huxtables, an upper-middle-class African-American family living in Brooklyn, New York, and is based on comedy routines in Bill's stand-up act, which in turn were based on his family life. It aired on Thursdays at 8 p.m. for all 8 seasons. Bill plays patriarch Heathcliff Huxtable, an obstetrician and son of a prominent jazz trombonist. His wife, Claire, played by Felicia Rashad, is an attorney. At first, Bill proposed that Cliff and Claire should both have blue-collar jobs. With advice from his real-life wife, Camille Cosby, though, the concept was changed so that the family was well off financially, with the parents both having lucrative white-collar jobs. The couple have 4 daughters, 20-year-old Sandra, played by Sabrina LaBeouf, 16-year-old Denise, played by Lisa Bonet, 11-year-old Vanessa, played by Tempest Bledsoe, and 5-year-old Rudy, played by Keisha Knight Pulliam, and 1 son, 14-year-old Theodore, or Theo, played by Malcolm Jamal Warner. The show's theme music, called Kiss Me, was composed by Stu Gardner and Bill Cosby. 7 versions of the theme were used during the run of the series. Bill, as starring actor, co-creator, co-producer, and executive consultant, had his hands in everything, including approving every script and even helping to design the set. He hired African-American psychiatrist Alvin Toussaint as a script consultant, and eventually invited young African-American directors to work on certain episodes. The show was unique in the fact that it didn't draw attention to the predominantly African-American cast. Issues of race were seldom addressed. The main focus of the show was to promote the culture of African Americans in a positive light. He rejected the use of contrived plots, gag lines, and generational put-downs. The Huxtables exposed audiences to a 2-parent, successful, upper-middle-class, cohesive Black family, without the self-deprecation of series like The Jeffersons or Good Times. Bill's creative demands were tough to meet, though. According to People, 3 of the show's 4 original writers left after their contracts expired after the first 6 episodes. Several changes were made right after the pilot was filmed. Bill's character was renamed Heathcliff when he was called Clifford in the early episodes of the first season. The only male child's name changed from Teddy to Theo, and the interior of the Huxtables' home, featuring an entirely different living room from subsequent episodes, and different color schemes in the dining room and the master bedroom. The Huxtable family also grew after the pilot episode, going from 4 children to 5, with the addition of Sandra. The character was created when Bill wanted the show to express the accomplishment of successfully raising a child who had graduated from college. Sabrina ended up winning the role because Bill was impressed not only by her natural talent, but also by her background in theater and Yale's School of Drama degree. The show's depiction of family life was easy to like, especially Bill's portrayal as an admirable father figure. While in many ways Dr. Huxtable was a traditional figure, the presentation of a black male assuming his fatherly duties as head of household had not been seen regularly on television, and was therefore, in context, a radical departure. Another thing viewers could look forward to seeing from Cliff each week was a new, funky sweater. What would later be called the Cosby sweater phenomenon was actually adopted out of necessity. The show's costume designer initially had various suits made for Dr. Huxtable to wear. They quickly realized, however, that Bill, and by extension Dr. Huxtable, couldn't really be at ease wearing a suit around the house. While some believe that the sweaters were designed by Australian knitwear brand Coogee, the man behind the best of those sweaters is actually Dutch designer Koos van der Akker. The character of Claire was an invigorating portrait of a contemporary African-American woman. She exuded professional style and intelligence, but she could whip up a meal for the kids or a gourmet dinner for guests as expertly as any stay-at-home housewife. The atmosphere of the Huxtable home was graced with reminders of African-American history and culture, with posters of Frederick Douglass and Martin Luther King Jr. on the walls, as well as copies of African-American paintings from Bill's personal collection. Many references were made to African-American educational institutions and various writers and musicians, especially the jazz artists on the recordings in Cliff's valuable collection, with many artists like Stevie Wonder, Sammy Davis Jr., and Lena Horne actually appearing on the show. The history of the civil rights struggle was also recognized and honored in various episodes. Whenever there was an issue over something being featured on the show, Bill was at the forefront of the fight to make it happen. Some examples include when the NBC censors wanted to remove an "Abolish Apartheid" sign that was pinned to Theo's bedroom door, as well as the network's hesitation when Bill decided that Sandra's twins would be named Nelson and Winnie, as a tribute to South Africa's Mandelas. In both cases, Bill vehemently refused to compromise with the networks, and the South African references remained. The enormous popularity and the clearly upper-middle-class lifestyle and ideas of the show also prompted considerable controversy. As many critics pointed out, The Cosby Show's portrayal of the darker side of life for African-American families was minimal. Two limitations of the show were clear: the moral uprightness of every character and isolation of the family from the larger issues facing African Americans, especially those not so financially successful as the Huxtables. During the show's third season, Felicia became pregnant, but Claire did not. Instead, she hid behind tables, kitchen counters, a giant teddy bear, basically anything that would disguise her ever-growing situation. The show's producers even scooped out the mattress of the set's bed so that Claire's stomach wouldn't show when she and Cliff lay down for a nighttime scene. While that issue was fairly easy to deal with, others weren't. Even though most of the TV siblings handled their newfound fame with care, according to others on the set, Tempest exhibited a temper and would be antagonistic at times. Lisa quickly gained a rebellious reputation on the set. She flat out refused to adhere to Bill's strict guidelines. She'd show up late, or sometimes not at all, and act like she really didn't want to be there. Then she completely wilded out off the set. She hooked up with rocker Lenny Kravitz in 1985, engaged in a graphic, intimate scene with Mickey Rourke in the 1987 feature film Angel Heart, and the following year posed nude for Rolling Stone. Bill, though, still wanted Lisa to be the focal point of The Cosby Show's spin-off, A Different World. The show would be built around Denise and her life at Hillman College, the fictional historically black college from which her parents and paternal grandfather had graduated. A Different World went on to become a very successful series in its own right, lasting 6 seasons from September 24, 1987 to July 9, 1993. Denise, though, was written out of the show after its inaugural season due to Lisa's pregnancy, and the following season was revamped, with the addition of director Debbie Allen, Felicia's sister, and new characters. Later, Denise came back to The Cosby Show as a recurring character for seasons 4 and 5, and a regular again in seasons 6 and 7. Then, in 1991, after reported disagreements with Bill, she was dumped from the show for good, resulting in her not appearing in the 8th and final season at all. She didn't even appear in the series finale episode. Instead, her character was only present on an overseas phone call. Carl Anthony Payne II, who played Theo's best friend, Walter Cockroach Bradley, in a recurring role from seasons 2 through 4, ended up being fired by Bill after refusing to cut his hair. A mural designed for the 7th season opening credits of The Cosby Show had to stop being used because of a dispute with the school whose students created the mural that inspired the television version. The opening was then replaced with the one from the previous season. The mural, named Street of Dreams, was painted on a Harlem building by children at the Creative Arts Workshops for homeless children in New York. The Carsey Werner Company approached Brookie Maxwell, the workshop's director, for permission to use the original. But the workshop was unprepared to obtain the legal clearances which the network's attorneys advised were necessary. So, the show's producers then created the mural that was used since the show's season premiere. Since then, the producers and the workshop's director had been negotiating for a solution. Brookie Maxwell wanted financial compensation and a credit, which Bill said was not warranted. Later, the original Season 7 opening, with slight modifications, returned to use in the beginning of Season 8. Additional main characters were added as the seasons went on, including Sandra's boyfriend turned husband, Elvin Thibodeau, played by Jeffrey Owens, Denise's husband, Martin Kendall, played by Joseph C. Phillips, Martin's daughter and Denise's stepdaughter, Olivia, played by Raven Simone, and Pamela Tucker, better known as Cousin Pam, played by Erica Alexander. Now, let's get into some fun facts about The Cosby Show. Bill's real-life family was the basis of the Huxtables. Both families consisted of 4 daughters and 1 son in the middle. The show was famous for its new openings each year.
Oye, por ahí viene Bill Cosby, oye.
The character Theo was patterned after Bill's own son, Ennis. Gordon Gartrell, that designed Theo's famous lopsided yellow satin shirt with the 2-tone pockets, is a real person, just not a real designer. The real Gordon Gartrell was actually a writer and producer on the show. Rudy was originally supposed to be a boy, but after testing hundreds of boys with no luck, producers decided to test girls as well. During her audition, Keisha Knight Pulliam's incredible chemistry with Bill was undeniable, so she was chosen to play the youngest Huxtable kid. Felicia won the part of Claire in part because she spoke fluent Spanish.
Misma casa con ese hombre y sus cartas románticas a la otra mujer, a señorita, no big deal.
Do you speak Spanish?
Sí.
The show originally planned to have Claire's character be a Dominican who would go on tirades in Spanish, a la I Love Lucy, but dropped the idea before the pilot was taped. Felicia was credited as Felicia Ayers Allen during Season 1 and the first 14 episodes of Season 2. After marrying sportscaster and former professional football wide receiver Ahmad Rashad in 1985, she began going by Felicia Rashad. In real life, Felicia was only 10 years older than Sabrina, who played her eldest child. Whitney Houston was also considered to play the role of Sandra, but was unable to commit to the full-time television production schedule as she intended to become a full-time recording artist. Joseph C. Phillips actually played 2 characters on the show. Before becoming Denise's husband in Season 6, he played the role of a guy named Daryl who went on a date with Sandra in Season 2. During the show's run, Malcolm Jamal Warner dated his on-screen girlfriend Justine Phillips, played by Michelle Thomas in real life. Even though they later broke up, he was at her bedside when she passed away from stomach cancer in 1998. Even though the show was set to take place in Brooklyn, the exterior facade was actually of a brownstone townhouse located in Manhattan's Greenwich Village. Some of the characters are named after people in Bill's life. His TV mom was named after his real-life mother, Anna. His real brother's name was Russell, which became his father. Claire's maiden name is his real-life wife's maiden name, and Olivia is Bill's real wife's middle name. Bill Cosby is the only cast member to appear in every single episode. Vanessa's early college enrollment was written in so Tempest could go to actual college. Season 7 begins with a back-to-school episode where it's revealed that Vanessa attended summer school so she could graduate a year early, and was now bound for Lincoln College in Pennsylvania. The sudden change in Vanessa's story arc was due to Tempest's desire to get her degree, and Bill's determination to help her however possible. After graduating from high school, she told Bill that she'd enrolled at New York University, but would be attending classes in the evenings and on weekends so it wouldn't affect her work schedule. Bill instead arranged the show's shooting schedule so that she could go to school full-time, which is why Vanessa was only seen sporadically throughout the season. 2 albums were produced that included various theme and background music from the show: 1986's A House Full of Love, music from The Cosby Show, and 1987's Total Happiness, music from The Bill Cosby Show, Volume 2. The iconic black button that Dr. Huxtable always wore on his sweaters in the last 2 seasons was an homage to Sammy Davis Jr., who passed away in 1990. Raven-Symoné originally auditioned for Bill's Ghost Dad, but she was too young for the part. He liked her so much, though, that he gave her a role on his TV show as his step-granddaughter. 4-year-old Alicia Keys appeared in an early episode as one of Rudy's friends. Adam Sandler also got his start on the TV show, playing Theo's friend Smitty. TV Guide ranked the show 28th on their list of 50 greatest shows, and Cliff Huxtable was ranked number 1 on their list of 50 greatest TV dads of all time. The Cosby Show has generated billions of dollars in television revenue, including from television advertisement and from syndication. Throughout its run, the show won numerous Emmy, Golden Globe, NAACP, and People's Choice Awards. All 8 seasons of the show have been released on DVD in North America. Currently, The Cosby Show can be streamed on Amazon Prime.